everybody. Welcome back to the Brittany Renee Experience. I am so excited, humbled, honored, and grateful that one of my best friends gets to be our first guest on the podcast today. And I'm going to let her do a little bit of an intro, but I just want to give some kudos real quick. So Michelle is a clinical hypnotherapist. I have worked with her personally one-on-one. She has worked with a handful, probably dozens, hundreds, I don't know how many clients at this point, and she is radically changing lives. So we're going to have all of the information, how you can connect with her, how you can reach her. She's going to give you some goodies to pitch towards the end about things coming up and how you can interact with her in multiple ways. So make sure that down at the bottom, you click follow, like, and share. And please drop any comments about any questions that you might have, anything that's kind of coming up for you as we talk about this today. Hypnotherapy has become a lot bigger over the last couple of years. And what Michelle actually brings into her space with her clients is this very curated and intentional container that is, I can pretty much say, like nothing that you're going to experience. It's not normal hypnotherapy. It's not quantum hypnotherapy. It's not just these basic. She has taken all of her certifications, all of her magic, and she's made this incredible container. So without further ado, Michelle, I'd love to introduce you and also let you add on to anything that you want to add.
Hi, I'm Michelle. I'm a psychic, actually hypnotherapist. So not only am I putting you into a deep theta trance, I'm also channeling right along with you because I'm able to see what you're seeing instantaneously. It's like almost like playing a video in my mind while you're seeing it. So there's a lot of external validation what you're seeing. I'm also able to grab a hold of different timelines and pieces from past life incarnations and incorporate them into your current lifetime. So if you left something fractals behind, I'm able to help gravitate those and put them back into your body, back into your system. The other cool thing is not only am I a hypnotherapist, but I also do psychic energy work where I do psychic surgery, where I can remove any densities, entities, anything of that such implants off your body. Also, I'm really magical at clearing the chakra systems, bringing them into a beautiful infinity movement in through the body. And I also am a specialist in light language activations as well, where I use light codes and energies to incorporate them and activate the DNA system. So yes, so hypnotherapist, activator, and channeler.
It's so funny. Before we got on here, I was like, what do you want me to call you? And like, this is something that I feel like even I have been in this space of, I don't even know how to like define myself, right? It's like, there's so many things that we can roll through that we do. So half the time I'm like, I'm an intuitive channel and business and life coach. And if you want to get deeper, I can tell you 20 minutes of other things that I can specifically do.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a couple things that I definitely want to bring forward for people. So one thing that you just said that I feel maybe we should dive into an explanation of is you were saying, you know, if there's fractals that need to be fixed, replaced, whatever. Explain that a little bit more for everybody who's watching, because they might not have understood exactly what that means.
So fractals are pieces of you that you have left in a past timeline or even a future timeline, depending on where your subconscious will take you or your higher self will take you. And we go and we actually retrieve those. So if you've left part of your, like, actually this last week, I had someone leave their voice in a past life where we gravitated. This sounds so like strange, but like literally she left her voice box in a past life because her voice was shut off. So, much in that life that she actually just left that part of her. And so she didn't feel like she could use her voice. And we were trying to activate her light language. So we went into past life, grabbed it, put it back in her voice, and she started to speak light language almost instantaneously. It was hard to kind of still gravitate those words, but it wasn't gone. Does that make sense? Like it was just coming, and she's messaged me since then and she's like, it's coming back. It's coming back. I can feel it. And so that would be an example of how we retrieved a fractal.
I love that so much. So let's dive right into, you know, the importance of hypnotherapy. Like, why did you get called to this? How did you even want to do that? Like, tell us your journey and why hypnotherapy is like the pillar that you're working from.
So I was at a pretty low point in my life when I stumbled upon hypnotherapy. I my entire life I've been told I'm too sensitive, I'm too much, you know, a lot of gaslighting. And really, I struggled with depression really, really bad. And to the point that I just like survival mode. I was just like this zombie walking around, just trying to survive day to day. And I'm a mom, and my spouse works out of town quite a bit. And so I single mom it quite a bit. And I have a very supportive spouse, but he also works out of state most of the time. And so I'm on my own. And so I dealt with a lot of depression. I dealt with a lot of like just not even realizing it, but just being in someone's presence triggers somebody. And I would just be so confused. Like, why am I triggering these people when I'm literally just sitting here? Like, I have no idea. You're just sitting there going, why do they not like me? Why do I feel like there's something wrong with me all the time? And that puts someone into a depressive state, because there's parts and versions of yourself that you don't like, because other people don't accept that. Society doesn't accept you for who you are. And even as a child, like being like, I could see people, and I was raised in a religion that didn't accept that. Like, that's considered satanic. And so evil, all the terminology, right? And and so pretty much my entire life I've been told that not to be something that I am. And so when I went to a retreat, I experienced hypnotherapy, and I was like instant relief. And I was like blown away. When you go from all of this charge, all the time of anger and animosity and anxiety, all of a sudden to like nothing. And you're like, this is what life's supposed to be like. Like, this is what it's supposed to be like. And I was like, I've got to experience this more. And so I started to invest my time into healing, and started to work through. I had done talk therapy. I had done life coaching. None of it would work. I was actually trying to, but my mind just couldn't shut off. There's something wrong with me. I'm not good enough. I trigger everybody. All these things. And hypnotherapy finally put me in that, from that negative charge to a neutral space, not a positive charge, just a neutral place, to get it so that I could go, okay, now where do I go from here? Instead of feeling like so much is pounding in my head. And so I did quite a bit of hypnotherapy. And then I thought to myself, man, I think I would actually be really good at this. I think I have a soothing voice. Obviously, this is not my hypno voice. My hypno voice actually completely changes. In fact, if they've never worked with me, the first time they're like, oh, it is you. It's not a recording.
They'll put you to sleep real quick.
And so I thought I could be pretty good at this. So I started to take courses, and the more courses I took, I just dived into it. I was like, I'm just going to start taking clients. I'm just going to follow this and how it works. And I'm just going to trust that I'm going to be able to be there, because I knew I could channel. I just didn't know I could channel as good as I can. and I started to realize, as I was doing hypnotherapy, I'm like, oh, I'm seeing what they're seeing. Like, I'm actually channeling. This is starting to make sense. Oh, okay. I have these gifts that I've had my whole life that wasn't accepted. And now this is starting to fit into what I actually am. And so it took parts of that shadow versions of myself that I didn't like about myself. And it was like, I can accept these parts. And so I just have continued through like learning different types of hypnosis. I've never been the type of hypnotherapist that's like, we're going to read a script today and I'm going to have you listen to it 50 times. Every time you go to bed, you're going to, no. We're going to the root issue. We're going to neutralize it. I use NLP techniques, timeline therapy, symbolic hypnosis, quantum healing hypnosis techniques. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. There's another hypnotherapy that I have too, and I can't even think of the name right now. But so I think I have 5 certifications, and they've all just kind of, leveled up. And the thing is I don't take one of those techniques and always use it. It's like I have all these different techniques, and I listen to the client and hear what they need. And then I just listen to whatever the channel. Okay, they need this type of technique. Oh, they need this type of technique. And I use that. So it's never, you're not going to get the same session as your friend. It's going to be different because it's uniquely designed for you. So.
Exactly. So who would be the ideal client? So people listening, if they're like, wow, some of this sounds like it would be good for me, but I don't know, like, who do you work with? Who's the ideal person? And why would someone want to come in to do a session of hypnotherapy?
So hypnotherapy can help neutralize traumas of any sort. That includes sexual traumas, emotional, physical abuse, childhood abuse. It does really well with those. Inner child healing is really good with hypnosis. Limited belief systems, and what I mean by limited beliefs is I'm only successful if I make a lot of money. That would be a limited belief. And there's a lot of those. I think most of us have limited beliefs running around, right?
Right.
And then also, if you're wanting to quantum leap, like, so if you're wanting to really dive into shadow work, this would be another really great way to, so that's an ideal client, someone who's willing to want to do some big work and have results very quickly.
Mm. Which probably everybody listening is like, okay, yeah, that's me. Let's do it. Let's go.
Yeah, yeah.
So speaking on inner child, because that's a huge piece. And, you know, we're both practitioners. We both talk about this. You know, I believe inner child work is one of the biggest pillars and keys in unlocking your gifts and unlocking why you're here, your mission, your purpose, and really understanding all of your relationships, right? Like, why do I relate like this to my friends, to my partner, to my children? It really always like comes down to that. And it's so funny because so many people don't want to do the inner child work. They're like, oh, but I meditate every day and I do this and I have this certification. And I'm like, how's your inner child? Is that your homie? Like, you know, how are they doing in there? Oh, I don't know, you know, and it's a very big telling sign, in my opinion, especially with so many people becoming, quote, conscious now, right? And I'm saying quotes because unfortunately and fortunately, in some different ways, consciousness is becoming so big, right? Everybody wants to read tarot, everybody wants to learn to channel, and like, good, because we need that, right? Like, people wanted to become doctors years back, now they want to become channels. Well, we need that for the new earth. So I'm here for this. And a lot of people are skipping vital pieces, in my opinion, and they're just running through like, I'm going to start a business, I'm going to do this. But there's so many parts of them. Number one, they don't know. And number two, they aren't even willing to look at and heal. And I think inner child, for me, that's like the gauge of anyone I meet that's doing any sort of conscious work. I'm like, so what's your take on inner child? You know, what's your journey been? Because that is going to tell me right away how deep, vulnerable, and open you actually are. Mm-hmm. So I want you to elaborate in your own space, like anything that you've experienced that maybe is something collectively that you've noticed, or even just the reason why inner child work to you is so important.
So inner child work discovered why I tick the way I tick. That's what I learned from my inner child. My inner child told me versions and pieces of myself as a little girl that wasn't seen, heard, or validated. And I was projecting those beliefs and that programming into my own children, into my own spouse and relationships. And I was wondering, why can't I make a relationship work? Why can't I do this? Right. Mm-hmm. And thankfully I have a very patient husband.
You do.
Thankfully, I have a very patient husband who has loved me regardless of my shadows and my inner child wounds. He's loved me unconditionally. But when you discover your inner child, it's like a little version of yourself just sitting in a corner crying, wanting to be seen. And I get emotional because I think that this is like collective. You know, it's like a lot of collective energy is every time I get into a field, it's like just seeing this little version of themselves sitting next to him going, I just want to be seen. And they're crying or they're mad or they're, you know, the little characters that each have like an emotion. Yes. And they're like, that's exactly what I see when I channel like a child. I'm like, there's your little angry version. There's your little sad version. There's the version of like wanting to explode. Right. And these little versions of yourself are wanting to be validated. They want to be seen. And so I'm actually an inner child specialist and healer because I feel like that when not even just with hypnosis, I mean, yeah, we usually dive into hypnosis, but the first thing I do is I say, hello, inner child. I want you to know that we love you, that we see you, that we validate you. What can you show us today? And that's how I start every inner child healing, because it will come forward. And especially if someone's in a trance space, that
Mm.
inner child is like, I didn't get my breakfast on time. Like, and it seems so just like a 5-year-old, you know, that's like, you turned off my movie before I was ready and done, right? Like, it's these little versions of yourself that seem so ridiculous. First of all, as an adult, you're like, this is so stupid, but your little version doesn't think it's stupid. And you're running on that program. It's like a computer system that's just continued to run since 1985, and it's still running on that same program in 2023, and it's not going to
Mm.
stop until you say hello, you know, and
It's
you
like that.
validate that inner child, you know.
Yes. And it is emotional, anytime. And here's one thing I also think is important for people listening to hear. Michelle and I are both intuitive practitioners. We both do very similar work in our own magical ways. And there's so many moments that collectively we'll just kind of tap in and talk and share, what's going on. And I think that with the inner child, there's a belief even here of like, oh, I'll do a session, I'll see them, I'll get it. And I'm like, check the box. No, this is an ongoing thing because, originally you walk into a field and you see, oh, here's here. Well, then there's even like your inner teenager, right? Which is still an inner child to most of us. So it's like we might first meet. When I did a session for the first time, inner child, I first met like 6, 7-year-old me, right? And now as of more recent, I am like powwowing with teenage Brittany. I'm like, oh, okay, we have some things here that we need to like look at and sit with. So, the beautiful thing of inner child too is that it's kind of this amazingly never ending journey, and it's not that you have to continue to do work because, one of the things I think that is not great is that we get in these hamster wheels of like just bringing ourselves across the fires because, well, we have to in one sense, but it becomes softer is what I'm trying to say. So, you'll start to acknowledge, oh, I'm getting triggered, or this is really emotional for me because this roots back to 6, 7-year-old me. This is 13-year-old me. And you can powwow with that version of you much quicker when you know them, you understand them, you've sat with them. So you don't have to go through a session. So, some people are like, what's the end goal of inner child? I'm like, that they're next to you whenever they need to be. It's not like you have to have hypnosis to get there. You can actually see them, you understand, you've witnessed them, and you get to have that conversation. Kind of veering into a little bit of a side conversation, like I would love for you to share like what's a typical day for you, right? Because I think sometimes people wonder, for people that do what you do, what I do, like what do they do during the day? Like, are you just like, talking to inner child? Are you like in and out of hypnosis yourself? Are you like burning sage all over the house, right? I want to start to normalize on the podcast, like what our lives really look like, as practitioners and leaders, and what tools are we using and doing so people understand like we are really consciously walking through our own process as well.
So I usually start my day by getting up and getting kids off to school, to be honest with you. I make lunches, I make breakfast every single morning for my children, making sure they get some good nutrition before they get off to school. We jump in the car, I drop them off at school, and I come back and I start my day. And depending on if I have clients or like what my typical day is looking like, if I have a client jump in, I'll usually eat some breakfast and then jump in on a session. And a lot of times I'll kind of get in a routine of just jumping on sessions. And then when I don't work certain days of the week, and I'll really try to start to spend time in the morning that I have like my coffee and I'm sitting there drinking it, and I'll just sit kind of in my own little space and say, hello, inner child. I see you. I validate you. I love you. And I start to channel my inner child, and I'll say, quite often, almost daily, I'll say, what do you need from me today? And I usually get like a pretty straight answer of what that looks like. And, some people would kind of count this as like a meditative space, but I'm not like laying down, no sound, just sitting there, just like with nothingness. Like for me, that I don't really love to just sit in the nothingness. I actually prefer to like meditate actually in the bathtub, which is kind of funny. Um, I'm a Scorpio, Scorpio rising, like I have tons of water. And so for me, it's like when I'm in a bathtub full of salt and Epsom salts, like I'll turn on Insight Timer, which is a great free app that you can have like sound bowls or breath work. And that's when I usually do meditative practice. I don't meditate every single day, to be honest with you. I usually just communicate with my inner child and just ask her what she's needing to see. And then I actually use the same exact techniques that I use with my clients of diving into what does she need to be seen and heard and validated. Going back to that event, as being a channeler, I can go back into my timeline using the technique that I use through hypnosis, go into the timeline, ask her what she needed to be seen and heard, turn around, neutralize it, and come back. And then I also communicate with the inner being. The inner being can be also called the higher self. Some people call the inner being God. It's the higher vibrational being. And I'll say, inner being, what was this lesson for me? What was it that this was supposed to teach me? And then I usually hear an answer, and then I integrate, I go back to the inner child and say, I validate, see you, and then I teach the inner child what was the lesson, and it neutralizes. That's what I do, actually. And I almost do that every day. So that's my coffee ritual.
We talk a lot about rituals in the circle over here. You know, I think ritual is something that we, in one hand, have lost, and in another hand, you know, I think people overcomplicate ritual, right? Now, what you just went through might be really complicated for some people, right?
Yeah.
But, you know, even your cup of coffee in the morning, you know, it's like, what are you doing for yourself? And Michelle and I, you know, we talk like all the time. We didn't talk for a couple days this weekend. I was at this big networking event, and it's funny because I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't talked to you in like a year. It's been like 48 hours. But, you know, one of the things that like we'll ask each other, like I text her the other day, I was like, what are you doing for yourself? You know, like, how are you taking care of you? Like, what does Michelle need right now? Right. So, you know, I want you to know that we are always leading, you know, clients, people through these processes, but we're also leading ourselves and each other. And, you know, a lot of people are starting to come into wanting to know more about hypnotherapy, intuitive work. And a lot of people are nervous, you know, they're like, this witchcraft, this could be satanic, you know, whatever. And to each their own in their belief system, because we will always have the duality. And, you know, it's a space that I want to start, you know, to share more of reminding people to trust themselves when they get into this, right? Because there can be people listening to this right now that are like, I've never even heard of this, but I feel this like gut feeling, like, I don't know, I just need to like look into it. I'm going to tell you to follow that, to jump, because you are safe and you're going to know, your body's going to tell you. We all have that inner instinct, right? Of like, this just feels right. I don't know why. I can't explain it. Or the opposite, this feels wrong. I don't know why I can't explain it. And, you know, one of the meters that I like to give people when they're looking into doing this work and they're looking into practitioners and they're listening to podcasts and they're doing all of this is really dropping into your body, right? Like really starting to be like, how am I feeling with this? Because you're going to know. And the other piece is it's a process of also, I think, studying people, which is why I wanted you to kind of share, you know, like what you do, because the practitioners who are here to really usher in new earth grids, they're really here to help you remember who you are, right? This is what we do. We help you remember who you are. Michelle is not going to take you into a session and pound into your brain anything that you don't already know. And she's just going to guide you for you to remember it. So it's so important for you when you're looking into these practices and looking at practitioners to really sit with, are they sharing their own journey? Are they really vulnerable and raw about their humanness, about, you know, who they are as this whole big being? And if you're not seeing that, I would really invite you to dig deeper, because again, the high and the low of us becoming more consciousness as a whole is that we have a lot of people coming online that are not really doing this for the correct reasons, or they're not really showing up in the way, in authenticity that they need to lead you into a space to actually heal things and not create more trauma. So I'd love to kind of have you speak on, you know, riff on this with me for a second, because authenticity has been a huge piece that I have been in my own journey. I know you've been in your own journey. what do you kind of have to say on that note of things?
It's funny you bring that up. I run a women's group called Soul, and this is actually what I taught this weekend was authenticity.
Of course it was. You're
Um,
primed, you're ready.
so I asked my group, I was like, what do you guys think authenticity is? And it's like truth, able to speak your truth, in alignment, and I'll elaborate what that means. And being in being okay with yourself and all your shadow pieces.
Mm.
Someone who has done inner child work that can validate other people's inner child that needs to be seen and heard and validated. And authenticity is about living the best version of you without limitations or stipulations.
Yes. So go a little deeper in some of that, because I know you're like, I'll come back and explain that. I would love for you to keep going on this, because this is, and I really hope everybody who's listening and or watching is really sitting just for a moment. I want you to just be really self-reflective as we're going through this, because our egos love to be like, but I don't need that, but I'm okay. Well, that's not needed. Like, we're just going to ask everyone's ego to just like pop a squat next to us for a second. Let's just chill for a beat and just be self-reflective. And if things come up as she's talking through this that really trigger you, and people are like, I don't know where to start, I don't know what work I need. When you get triggered, there's your work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, go ahead.
So living in alignment means that you are living a life with pleasure, living a life that feeds your soul, and living a life that gives you the energy because you're not getting it from caffeine. Like, to me, you're living that space where you just have so much freaking energy as a generator of human design. Like, I have to do stuff that feeds my energy, right? Like, if it doesn't, it depletes me. And so it was funny the other day, someone was like, how do you have so much energy? Do you just drink caffeine all the day? And I'm like, no, I'm living purpose. Like, I'm in alignment. I'm getting energy from source. And so I feel like that alignment piece is really about, what do you want your end game to be? Like, what does it look like for you? And sit in a meditative space and really like dive into imagining, which is, imagination is the gateway to your spirituality. It's the gateway to your higher self.
Yep.
And imagining what that looks like. And then putting yourself into a road or a tunnel that's going to put you into that place, which puts you into that timeline. And I do lots of visual work, especially in my soul group and with one-on-ones, is that, what does that look like for you? And then also, I love to do mirror work as well, where it's like, when you're looking in the mirror, do you see the version of yourself that you want to be? And also, when you're living your authentic life, you're not hiding anything about you.
Yes. Ugh.
You're not having to like be one person while you're in session, being one person when you're mom, being one person when you're at church, or when you go to like your spiritual gatherings, or being one person when you're at work. Like, you're the same person every single place that you go to. You're not hiding any versions of yourself. And if that makes somebody uncomfortable, let's just say it, that's someone else's problem.
Yes.
Like, that's your authenticity is triggering somebody. So I wanted to kind of go back to me in my own journey of like making people uncomfortable with me just sitting in their presence. Happens all the time. And I know Brittany can relate to this. It's like, I am here to transmute energy. I am here to alchemize things. I am here to help the collective. And therefore, when I go into a group setting, I'm going to trigger the shit out of some people without even having to say anything.
We're really big mirrors.
Yeah. Like, hey, you wanted a mirror in your bedroom? Hi.
This is so important. And, again, I think that it's so easy for people to want to get into being more conscious, and for people to be pulled and gravitated. If you open up someone's TikTok and everything is spirituality, ritual, whatever it might be. And at the same time, then you zoom out and you look at their human experience, and it's like, we're only diving and digging into that, after 9 p.m. because, well, everybody's in bed and like, I'm not working. And this is where I, am in this space. And this is where people get lit up and they get excited and they're like, oh my goodness, this makes so much sense. And they feel seen. Mm-hmm. So, I really would ask everybody who's listening to take into account, are you living double lives? Mm-hmm. And, this is something that I personally experienced very young. I grew up doing pageantry. I grew up, doing all of the stage things. And at the same time, my mother is Native American and we have gifts and she's been telling me all these things. And there were a lot of family traumas and dramas that were going on. And so very, very young, I learned, and I think many of us do, right? You learn to read the room. You learn to understand like what is acceptable. And those of us who are people pleasers and good girl syndrome, recovery, however we want to call it, that's an unwind, so when you're an adult and you're like 20, 30, 40, even 60 something, it's kind of unimaginable, I think, to be like, well, of course I live two lives, because people at work and my family would think I'm cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs if I'm talking about, oh my goodness, there's energy out here in this tree, or like this was happening today and I felt this. I want to just invite you to really deeply start to tell yourself other people's reactions to your authenticity are not your issue or problem to solve. They're not your responsibility. Other people's responses are not your responsibility. And this is a really big piece to come up against, because you will automatically find out if you're people pleasing. You will automatically find out if you are, in good girl or even good boy, whatever we want to call it, syndrome. And you're also going to see where you're in your authenticity, because, this weekend it was beautiful. I went to a Lions Not Sheep event. And one of the things that was every single speaker was pretty much lacing through their conversations. And these are successful, incredible people who are, in my opinion, very authentic and embodied. And they kept saying, if you can't have the fire and the drive to basically die for what you believe in, then why are you doing it? And I think it's the same thing for yourself. I cannot be my best version if I'm hiding or if I'm twisting parts of me to be in certain places. And I will tell you, the further along you get in self-development, which I think Michelle could probably echo on this, those moments when you do, what can I say, lapse in your authenticity or your full embodiment, right? You lapse in like, oh, well, there's a really good reason why we're doing this here, right? But I'm still really embodied, but I'm here. As soon as you start to tick or tip a different way, spirit is going to give you a huge lesson, and they're going to pull you and rip you out of spaces, places, relationships that you're not being honored, right? And so part of this is also realizing, I think, you bend yourself because your authentic self won't be honored. And it might not, but you also might be really surprised where it is honored. And the amazing audacity we have to be our authentic embodied selves it's literally lighting the torch in dark spaces, right? We're literally showing people like, you know what, just be who you are. Like, it doesn't matter. And people who love you will gravitate to you. And you're like, well, if I become who I am, then I lose everybody. Well, you're going to maybe lose everybody, but then you're also going to magnetize all these incredible people to you.
Yep. Yeah. I think like about 2 years ago, I literally lost all my friends. They were like, I started to put up boundaries, and big boundaries. Boundary queen, right?
Yeah. I'm calling her the boundary babe now. I'm like, oh, new boundary unlocked.
And it's really hard to, I just want to validate, like, it's really hard to let like in my case, a 20-year friendship go down, like, and just be gone, and grew up with them, and they've been part of my life for since I was like in the 7th grade, right? Gone. Like, as soon as I stepped into my power, like, they couldn't handle my authenticity. It was too much for them. And the boundaries that I set was too much. when you are a channeler, I think it's really easy for people to take advantage of your gifts. And it's if you don't set up those boundaries and have that exchange, it's really easy to deplete yourself really fast because you're channeling for everybody and you're not getting anything in return. And also with your authenticity, it's like you're coming into your worth, which is a huge part of your authenticity. And, as much as all of us would love to just be able to help people heal for free, we live in a physical world and that's not feasible. And it's not reasonable. And so when I started to put boundaries up of like, hey, I'm not going to like read you for free. I'm not going to give you a free Reiki session for free. When I was first starting, it, that was what they wanted. And so when they no longer got what they wanted, there was no substance there. And these people are great people. I'm not saying they're not, but as soon as the substance was gone, it was, I don't want to be friends with you. And to be honest with you, those aren't your people anyways, because without the substance, that's not the friendship I'm looking for. I'm only investing my time into conscious relationships.
Exactly.
And if they're not conscious, then is there a point? Like if they're not pushing you into a space that you want to become, is that really a point of a relationship?
Exactly. And, I think that there's so many unmet needs, I think, in relationships in our lives, and we don't really fully see them until we really step into trying to figure out who we are and, find our inner child and find our worth and ask ourselves, like, what is authenticity to me? What is embodiment to me? Like, where am I in these spaces? And yeah, I want to just witness too, if you're listening and you're like, I don't feel embodied at all. I feel scared. I feel like this is daunting. I feel like this is too much. I feel like I can't do this. I feel like, this is great, but it's not for me because it's going to wreak havoc. I just want to witness anyone in that space too, and tell you that it takes a lot of courage to step into authenticity. And a lot of people choose to not do that. Mm-hmm. But I will tell you, in my opinion, and you're welcome to tap in on this too, Michelle, is I have a smaller group of tight friends now that are pretty much like family. And I am more full in each of those spaces than I was when I had, 50, 60 people that I could just go through my phone and text and hang out with. I can literally message Michelle or any of my other good friends and just feel like, wow, I am really in it today. And it's not just oh, that sucks, I'm sorry. There's support, and there's, how do you need to be supported? Do you need to be witnessed? Do you want support? What's coming up for you, and then it's this beautiful, deeper conversation than just, oh man, let's go get a drink. That sucks. I'll see you at 5.
Yeah. Let's suppress it.
Let's just run away together from it.
Yeah. No, like, I think it's like, and also half the time, do you even have to text somebody that you're having a rough time? I'll just be like,
no, we feel each other.
Yeah. It's like when you have conscious relationships, you're not having to say a word. It's like, hey, I felt you today. Are you okay? Like, you know what I'm saying? Because that's soul family. Like people are gravitating to that soul family energy where even my own spouse will call me and be like, you're doing too much. Like, knock it off. Right. And so it's that connection that you're getting. And that's the consciousness, right? Like intertwining consciousness. We're all a fractal of source. So we're all connected. And when you've decided to connect with yourself, you're connected with people that are part of that versions of yourself that are ready to be seen and heard. And so you're going to gravitate, you're going to magnetize that energy. And I feel like conscious relationships are so fun, first of all, because it's, you finally have another version of yourself that's like, calls you out on your crap, first of all, in a loving, caring way and a supportive way. And it's somebody that you can count on, someone that you feel there's no expectations in the relationship, which I think is really important to like magnify in this space, is that conscious relationships don't have expectations because expectations are a limited belief. And also really coming into the energy of what's best for me and being okay with saying, you know what, I can't come to the party tonight. I just don't have the energy or time. And your friend says, you know what? I think that's a good choice. Maybe you should take a bath and really take a beat, and seeing you for where you're at instead of saying, are you kidding me? You're not going to come to my 40th birthday party? And you're just, we've been planning this for months. It's like, you know, they get into this space when you have a conscious relationship and they're like, it's okay. Like, take a bath, take care of yourself. I'm going to miss you. And, you know, we'll catch it another time. Maybe we could do lunch later this week, right? It's like understanding and meeting people where they're at instead of having the expectation of what feeds your ego.
And it's a mirror too of honoring yourself is actually going to have other people honor you. And, you know, I think so often the belief in the cycle is, I have to please them so they please me. That's manipulation, y'all. Like that is straight up manipulation. So that's not authentic. That's not embodied. And like, I, believe me, have been there. Like we've all been there, right? I was people pleaser to the max. She likes to come up and try to, I actually sent Michelle a text, I think yesterday. And I was like, yeah, that like breadcrumb eating little one tried to come up and I'm like, no, bitch, we're here for the pie. Like we don't do breadcrumbs anymore. It's not a thing. This is how me and my inner child talk, by the way, now. So, you know, it's really this beautiful reflection, and how you know you're really coming into authentic embodiment is that you are witnessing what you are putting out really getting reflected back, right? There's no distortion. There's no manipulation. It's just purely like, this is where I'm at. This is it. And you realize like, everyone is in their own space, y'all. Like if Michelle had a 40th birthday and I like couldn't make it genuinely because I was not energetically able to show up, number one, I wouldn't want to bring the energy of me wherever I was into that space because that's her celebration. And two, I trust and know that what is best for me is also best for her. Even though society has told us, well, 40 is big. Well, it's her birthday. Well, she's been planning it, right? Like all of these things. But she is going to know that exact thing. Like what's best for her tonight is also what's best for me. And yes, I might be sad. I might be like not excited, and I'm going to trust. So there's this beautiful trust bridge that starts to happen when you're trusting yourself. Other people also trust you. So this is a constant, we're all mirroring each other, right? And I can tell you, you know, Michelle's like, I lost all of my friends. Y'all, I have one very, very, very dear friend. Actually, there's two that I've had since college. We're not as close as we used to be, but they witnessed me in this rebirth of going from, you know, party girl who was, you know, doing all the pageants, doing all the things, being a makeup artist, to a mother who is a channel, a psychic, intuitive, a healer, a speaker, and they walked with me. So there are some people who will walk with you, but I left a lot of people where they were because they didn't want to walk with me. And then I magnetized these beings like Michelle and multiple other people who you guys will get to meet on the podcast, who are incredible. And, they're so fulfilling in so many more ways than just, this is my friend. This is someone who can lead me through healing. Like, this is like soul family. Like, you will meet your soul family. And then you have these moments and you're like, oh, yep. Well, we had that one lifetime, or we were in this star system, or we were whatever, and those are the fun things we get to get into and the esotericness of it. But I think that there is just power and potency and in learning that you're good by yourself, right? Like, this is like something that not even conscious people talk about. You're really good by yourself. And as soon as you get comfortable by yourself and you allow yourself to dig into these spaces with yourself, everything that comes after, that loneliness that you'll walk through and that pain that you'll walk through and the grief that you'll walk through, which all of those are going to be part of this process of authenticity and embodiment in some container around you, you really get so much more than I can even explain. Like, what's that process been like for you? Like, what do you feel, dropping all of these people who weren't in alignment, maybe not even attending family functions, right? That weren't in alignment anymore. Like, what is the now like for you that you've like fully stepped into it? Like, what can you tell people? Like, I'm on the other side of this, and this is what I'm going to tell you, like, this journey might be, or what is coming.
Well, I don't go to events if I pull up and have any form of anxiety. I remember going to family events and being like, oh, I gotta pop a Xanax to even come into this situation. Where now, like, if I feel that, that's my higher self saying, this isn't the place for you. So, and I trust that. And I have a partner that's very supportive of that as well. I also don't invest my time that people that don't feel like it's reciprocated. I'm not interested in a one-way relationship. And, so now when I go to events, like a family function, it is well known what my boundaries are, and it's not a surprise. And they can label it however they want. I really don't care anymore. That energy of like, oh, I want everybody to like me is gone. So what is most important is that my body feels safe in every situation so that I don't go back into a fight or flight mode, so that my body feels safe. And that's actually what I'm working on right now in my own physical being, as I've done a lot of like mental work and inner child work. And it's really about healing my body. That's my next step, is like that safety piece, that neurological system of feeling safe in my body. In fact, that's one of my rituals I do every day too, is like, as I'm putting lotion, or I use actually a Luna Lush oil, that's a alchemy that's charged by the moon. And I put that on every day, and I tell my body how thankful I am for it, and that I don't have to hold on to any stagnicity. And I communicate with the body just as I was communicate with my inner child, right? And really amplify of like, you are safe, you have a safe home, you are safe to express yourself, you are safe to have feelings, you are safe to have emotions, you are safe to have all these things that are coming forward for you with no judgment, shame, or feeling like I have to justify them, right? And so I feel like on the flip side, it's now kind of like a gravy train. Does that make sense? Like, it just comes to this beautiful place where, like, hanging out with soul friend, like my best friend that lives here in my hometown in Idaho, I can just be straight with her, like, hey, you know what, this isn't working for me, I can't do this. And she's like, yeah, I respect that and honor that, and then she changes, right? And vice versa. Hey, Michelle, like, this isn't going to work for me, and I change, right? If I find that reflection or that mirror to be validation, and it's that self-reflection that I think that a lot of people on this journey learn really quickly. And also tapping into your own medicine, right? Like, that's the end game. And the end game is that you get to tap into your own medicine and heal from within. So like me having the conversations with my inner child, that's my own medicine, right? That's what I use. And as a practitioner, that's what I share to the world, is my medicine. No one has my medicine. No one has Brittany Renee's medicine. It's, you get your medicine. That's the end game. And you also get love for yourself and empathy and compassion and embodiment to others. That's the end game. That's how you beat the matrix, is with love and wholeness and your own medicine. And it's freaking magical.
It's amazing. Such a good answer. I can't believe we've almost hit an hour here. So we're definitely going to have Michelle back on, because we can like riff and talk. And I honestly want to bring you back on to talk about relationships. So we're going to make sure you guys follow along, because we've got some real juicy, fun stuff about relationships that I know her and I can get into. So first of all, I want to give you an opportunity to share anything kind of coming up, anything you're offering, how people can work with you, what that might look like, kind of any in that space. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the experience when you're done. So floor is yours.
So you can jump on any social media platform, Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok. My handle is @3THREE_CCCS_healing. And my website is on all of those, which is actually just www.3ccccshealing.com. All my services are on there. If you jump on my Instagram handle, it actually has them in my link tree, each individual. I offer inner child packaging. I do not offer one sessions with those. Like Brittany said, it's not a one and done. Like, you have to work with your inner child. And in those sessions, you will specifically learn how to activate your own medicine to work with your inner child. And so that you can learn those skills. That's the whole purpose of a practitioner. You should be learning skills that help you so that you can take those skills and work on your own. That's the purpose of a practitioner. I offer psychic surgery, which is a 1-hour session, which is probably one of the most popular sessions I have, because it's a lot of fun and we can clear chakra systems. I use a lot of light language. And then I also offer hypnosis and shadow work as well. And you can jump on those. My next thing that's coming up, that's an event, is October 1st, I start my dark feminine course, dark divine feminine course, which is the embodiment of the dark feminine. This is where you're activating gifts. This is where you're stepping into your authenticity. This is where you're going to learn how to set up boundaries. This is where we're going to work with the inner child. And it's a 8-week course. That's also on my link. And I have limited space because I want it to be a smaller group so we can do some spotlight coaching. It's at an incredible price that you'll never see again. And and then I also have the Brittany Renee experience that I'll be also joining with, and we can talk about that.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Please go follow her, check her out. She is, just this all-encompassing and beautiful being. And if you get the opportunity to work with her or be in a group, I promise you will not be the same person that you were when you started. So let's talk about the experience. So you guys have probably heard me on Conscious Awakening Network, as well as a bunch of other podcasts talking about this. We are officially starting to gear up marketing and launching this now, which we're so excited. So in New York City, in Manhattan, November 11th, so 11/11 portal and 11/12. It is going to be me, Michelle, and then we have Megan Kittredge also, which she will also be on the podcast soon. So if you guys are watching this, obviously in replay, you can always go search for her episode. We are going to be walking you through a very deep 2-day experience, and this is going to be really pushing you and inviting you into some really deep self-reflection. Where are you blocked? Where are you housing and holding limiting beliefs? And we're going to really get you clear on what you want. Why are you here? And what is stopping you from getting there? We're going to have all sorts of goodies, which we're not going to share too much about because we're calling it an experience because that's exactly what it's going to be. So everyone coming, be prepared for anything, be ready to be led through dark, shadowy spaces and being held by beautiful energy. Be ready to celebrate, be ready to clear and drop and leave all the bullshit and the stories that don't need to come with you. And you get to meet some incredible tribe. And this is going to be a smaller side of the event as well. So we will have huge, big events. This one is only going to be about 45-ish people. And we're going to keep it intimate because on day one, we're going to go through a whole deep dive into the why, into what's going on, where are you blocked, right? We're really going to get clear and see what's happening. Day two, you get to sit and powwow with each practitioner in smaller groups. So you'll get to experience myself, Michelle, and Meg all in different little containers. And I'm getting chills just talking about it. You're going to leave that experience as well. Completely different, upgraded, changed, ready, on fire. We've got a lot of different trickling outs that we'll be having. So make sure that you're following us on all the social medias. TheBrittanyRenee.com is where you're going to see a link also that will say like the experience, this is for me. And it will talk about a little bit about what we're doing. I'm going to say, this is for those who are really ready to step in to who you are. And if there is hesitancy only of like, well, I don't know what's going to happen, but I feel really ready to go, amazing. If you're like, yeah, some of this sounds cool, but like other parts, I don't really know that I want to look at, that's not for you. We are really calling in specifically the people who are like, I've got the codes of courage. I've got the want. I've got the like, fuck yes energy. I'm scared. Good. That's okay. This is for you still. The fear, and this is something that Michelle and I talk about all the time. If you're not terrified of where you're going, you are not going the right place, because we should be stretching into these expansive, beautiful spaces. And we're going to guide you how to do that in the experience. So it'll be 2 days. It's going to be incredible. There already are tickets purchased. So I don't even know where our numbers actually are right now. And we haven't even fully gone public, but October 1, the card is going to open. So you guys know you can follow me on all the socials. Those will be below, as well as Michelle. You'll see us sprinkling out a little, here and there of what we're doing. Do you have anything to say about the experience? What are you geared up for that?
I'm excited to connect with people on a intimate level, specifically in person, and also giving people the ability to, it's an experience, a lot of retreats, like you're staying in the same space, you're doing everything. It's like, this is giving you kind of like a lot of condensed information, and then you're able to digest it by yourself. A lot of condensed information, and then you're going to able to, digest it by yourself. And I think that's kind of how I work, I like my own, especially if you've done a lot of healing, you like to digest things on your own. And I feel like that's kind of the uniqueness of the Brittany Renee experience, is that you're going to get all this incredible healing in a very condensed space. And then you're going to be able to have some time by yourself to, like, you know, if you want to go do something in the city, that you want to take a friend to the experience and you guys both go to a show that night, and you can just, you know, maybe digest what you just had, or maybe go hit a spa or whatever you feel like is important for you. And that's what I like about it, is that it's this beautiful experience, but also an ability for you to kind of take a time out for yourself and just go do something to digest it, and not feel like you have to stay with 50 people or 70 people. We're not doing 70 people, but a lot of retreats are a lot of people, and you're just in everybody's energy. Like, we're going to unhook, you're going to get to go be sovereign and digest all this information on your own, so that you can take your own codes from it and not feel like you're getting projections or other belief systems intertwined with it. So that's what I like about it personally.
Yeah, it's going to be so exciting. And, you know, New York has my heart in so many ways. So we've kind of been playing with, like, this is like, you know, this beautiful, sexy, sensual, embodied, authentic, driven, fiery, grounded. Like, there's so many elements that are getting pulled into this experience, and it's just going to be incredible. So for those of you who are like, I want more information, I'm interested, go to my website and make sure that you add yourself into the waitlist link. The first 72 hours of the cart being open, we have a very one and done offer that's going to be there. So you're going to want to be on the email blast list, so you see that and you can grab it. It is a unbeatable offer for the price for what you're going to be able to get. And it's still going to be super affordable, even at full price. So I love you guys so much. Thank you, Michelle, for being here. We will definitely be having you back on. Make sure that down below you're following in the description all of her socials. You're connecting with her for the Dark Feminine course. This is also something that I am so excited and cheering her on for, because this is needed and necessary. And we have to remember that in the darkness is where we find our light. And in the darkness is where everything is birthed. And in the darkness is where we become friends with our shadows, and we become friends with these parts of us that society has told us are bad. And that's actually where the power is. So thank you for doing your work. I love you so much. And for those of you who are new to the show, since this is going to only be week 2, next week it will be another incredible practitioner. So I look forward to seeing you guys. Make sure you click and subscribe. I love you so much, and we'll see you next time.